Smiling Friends might be over sooner than you think.
I love kids, Charlie. I love kids.
I was just wondering if you wanted to hang out with me and play Burnout Revenge for the PS2.
Get a little square, make a little love.
You're having the time of your life back there.
I don't know, I love my boys.
There's a real chance that it only has a couple of years left on the air. Not because of Adult Swim, but because of the creators. Let's talk about it. So there's an interview that's been making the rounds lately that's actually from November when season 3 wrapped up. Interviewer Ryan Kajewski asked Hadel and Cusack, what are your latest thoughts on when you might hang it up, given that this season included a commentary about The Simpsons running on for so long? To which Cusack states, we'll see how we feel after 4 and 5, and then Zach and I will get into the war room and decide what the next plan is. We pretty much can guarantee it's not going to go on as much as these other shows. Hadel joins in with, even if we had 1,000 ideas at the end of season 5, we're not going to go on long. I will say that much. We're not going to put a number up, but 5 is getting close to probably where we'll want to wrap it up. Kajewski then asks, is Adult Swim arm twisting you to keep it going? To which Cusack responds, even our agents think we're going to go to season 80. Our reps in Adult Swim are like, surely we'll go on forever, but Zach and I know what's best for the show. The Beatles are so cool. They ended with Abbey Road on a peak, and it's like this nice little discography you can go back to watch. Kajewski remarks, Wings had some good songs. To which Cusack says, yeah, but that was good because it was like a reset. If Zach and I made another show after Smiling Friends, that would be an excuse to be refreshed again. That's why Wings were good, because Paul McCartney was like, alright, now I can start again. So if you ask me, it totally tracks that they want to wrap it up around season 5 and move on to the next thing, as the alternatives aren't really that great. You either end up like South Park, which I love with all my heart, but you can tell when Matt and Trey are phoning it in because they're tired, or you can end up like The Simpsons or Family Guy, where someone else is steering the ship, but Cusack and Hadel still come in to voice their respective characters. Both of those sound like a lose-lose. I don't want them to make this show just because they're contractually obligated, but I also don't think I want anyone else to come in and showrun, because even if they have some decent ideas, I just don't want to live in a world where we're talking about the Cusack and Hadel era Smiling Friends versus the such and such era. Once we get there, I'm checking out. I really think a big part of it is that they don't want what happened with Rick and Morty to happen to Smiling Friends, where the show got too big and Adult Swim got way too ahead of themselves. This wasn't meant to be some 12-season juggernaut that spawns a multi-million-dollar franchise and a spin-off. Why are we making this? It was never meant to be in a position where they have to drip-feed lore over a 10-year period. Adult Swim just thought everyone would love Rick and Morty forever, literally building the next decade of their brand around it, only for the general public to lose interest for one reason or another. If they were just able to call it quits after like season 4 or 5, the show will likely have a much better reputation, but the longer it goes on, the more it's known as the adult animated sitcom that fell off with a cringe fan base of edgelords and pseudo-intellectuals. For a lot of Smiling Friends fans, the idea of this happening to the show is their biggest nightmare, and I would not be surprised if the creators felt that anxiety too, especially since, you know, they're the ones making it. But that said, it's hard to really trust when shows on Adult Swim end, since many have wrapped up or gotten canceled only to come back later in a new form. Aqua Teen has ended like 3 times already, and I would not be surprised if they came back for round 4. Robot Chicken as a show ended, but it lives on through specials. And while the Venture Bros might be over with the movie, you never know what Adult Swim has planned. So let's say Smiling Friends does end at season 5. There's always a chance we could see it pop up again with specials, or a full-on revival season after a few years. But even then, the end of Smiling Friends does not mean the end of Michael and Zach's time at Adult Swim. I think a lot of Smiling Friends fans aren't even aware of this, since they probably weren't following Adult Swim like that until Smiling Friends came out, or only keep tabs on this one show. But Michael Cusack has been working with Adult Swim for a minute. He made the best Rick and Morty episode, Bushworld Adventures, and before Smiling Friends, he had his own series, YOLO, which ran for 3 seasons. So just because they exhaust all their ideas with Smiling Friends doesn't mean that they won't have ideas for another show, putting their time and energy into that for a while. And although that show wouldn't be Smiling Friends, I'm sure it'll share plenty of its DNA, the things that make it unique, while also offering new things that wouldn't have worked in Smiling Friends. I'd rather have them make something that's fresh and creatively fulfilling than stick to something just because I'm familiar with it. Creators deserve the chance to grow and experiment, to go from something like BoJack Horseman to Long Story Short, instead of giving into whatever's already a commercial success. No need to be Disney, and Adult Swim feels like one of, if not the only channel left that truly embraces new ideas, not just in giving them the green light, but also promoting them to the best of their ability. When a new Adult Swim show comes out, chances are you will know about it, and that is something that is pretty valuable to have in the Big 26. But also, I actually think this would be good for Adult Swim because, again, they won't be able to repeat the mistakes they made with Rick and Morty. Instead of relying solely on Smiling Friends as their next big show, they can continue to launch multiple new series and create a robust catalog of brand new adult animation. Where else but Adult Swim can you get upcoming series like Safari Heist, which is about three frog brothers pulling up a heist, Get Jiro, an adaptation of an action comic, and Joe Pera's My Two Cars, which follows our protagonist Keith Asshole as we follow his day-to-day life of owning both a PT Cruiser and a Mini Cooper. I am so glad Adult Swim is throwing millions of dollars at stupid shit. And I really mean that. Even if Smiling Friends isn't long for this world, it'll be on the creator's own terms, which you don't get to see too often. And it likely wouldn't be the end of Cusack and Hadel's time at Adult Swim. But hey, if it does end at season 5, and you need to mentally prepare for your next surreal comfort show, now's the time to get into Haha You Clowns, because I'm telling you, this is already generational Adult Swim television. And since it's a satire of sitcoms, this is a cow that could be milked for 20 seasons if you wanted, and it'd still crack me up. But with all that said, I want to know what you guys think. Should Smiling Friends end sooner than later? Why or why not? Let's get a dialogue going in the comments down below, and you can keep the conversation going over on Twitter and Instagram by giving me a follow at AllStrickFox and at Roundtable Vids. If you enjoyed this video, please sort a like and subscribe to the Roundtable with notifications on so you never miss a video. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an awesome day. Peace!